that Cornelius is about to show up. And that Elohim is telling him this is coming from heaven to earth. It's coming from the realm of Elohim to the realm of Peter through the Holy Spirit. And he's being shown a vision that says, I'm sending you some people that need your help. They want to believe and receive in my word and my salvation. They want my restoration, but they're not quite sure where to get there. They're still walking in their spiritual poverty. They're still kind of deaf to my word, to the word of the Spirit. They're still a little bit, they can't speak it. They still don't know what side of Tet they want to be on. And they still have doubts. And I'm sending them to you. This is a situation that we are all in. Okay? This is why we need to know the difference between eating beef and eating pork. That we need to know the difference between what is and what is not. And that we as individuals need to get our relationship with Elohim right in order for us to be able to help the people that come to us. Because if someone comes to me and they want my help, and I'm going to give them a good old dose of Bible learning, but I give them a good old dose of Bible learning that goes contrary to the Word, then what have I just done? Well, I've fitted myself for a millstone, and I've led this person in the wrong direction. Which brings us to Romans 14. It says, I know I am persuaded by Yeshua that nothing by itself is common, except to one deeming anything to be common, it is common. But if your brother is grieved because of your food, you no longer walk according to love. Do not by your food destroy that one for whom Messiah died. Then do not let your good be spoken evil of. For the kingdom of Yahuwah is not eating and drinking, but righteousness and peace and joy in the Holy Spirit. What we've just looked at is we look at superficial things and we read things topically. And we make decisions based on those topical things, common knowledge to everybody. But we hold on to this, and I look at you and I judge you because you're not holding this too. You're not doing it my way. Say, you're wrong because you're worshiping in that way and I'm worshiping in this way. Now, what have we just said, though? I've got to be right. I've got to make sure that I worship in spirit and in truth, because Yeshua says those are the kind of people the Father's looking for. But he also says not to pay attention to the speck in your brother's eye unless you're looking, pay attention to the plank in your own eye first. Don't look at the yod. Don't look at someone's perception, ayin, the speck, the yod, the smallest letter of the alphabet. Don't look at somebody's perception of the truth, power, and the ability of Elohim before you've considered the plank in your own eye. What is that? That you have a vav in your eye. The vav is composed of a line and a yod. That the yod is still out there, but your flesh gets in the way. And we let our flesh get in the way. We let our carnality get in the way when we become judgmental of what people do who aren't quite sure of where they are at. These are the people that are coming at us in the sheet that is bound at the four corners. These are the people that are being brought to us by Elohim. But if we sit there and condemn them or do things in front of them that, oh my gosh, I can't believe you just did that. That's horrible. My grandmother would just have a fit right here, right now. You know, if it offends them, for their sake, I'm not going to do it in front of them. Okay? If what they do offends me, then I'm going to hold on to Philippians where it says that I should consider the needs of others before I consider myself. This person hasn't grown. I understand that there's a need for growth, and eventually they'll either find it for themselves. If I can't help them, somebody will come into their path to help them to understand. But I'm not going to judge this person, because in the end, what does verse 17 say? That the kingdom of Yahuwah is not eating and drinking. It's not physical things, but it's righteousness and peace and joy in the Holy Spirit. Everything that we've talked about tonight, we take these two verses, we can link them to the Shin. We can link them to the Shin. Shin is a paradox. Shin has two sides. The front side of Shin is Elohim's point of view, is freedom, is love, is righteousness, it's peace in my life. The backside of Shin is the Satan's point of view. It's carnality, it's flesh, it's things that keep me in bondage. It's things that will ultimately lead me to destruction. It's interesting we're talking about eating and chewing, because Shin means tooth. Means tooth. You know, we look at things from our point of view without considering Elohim's point of view. Yeshua is with the disciples, says, I'm coming to a point that my ministry is going to end. I'm going to be arrested, I'm going to get beat up, and they're going to put me to death. And Peter, before Yeshua can finish, saying, no, no, Master, let it not be so. Don't say these things. That's terrible. How can you say this? You're going to be okay. And Yeshua looks at him and says, get behind me, Satan. What's he saying? He's saying, Peter, turn your Shin around. Stop looking at things from a carnal point of view. Look at things from Elohim's point of view. And that's what it started out as a lesson for us to study, or to look at study techniques. And basically, the study techniques that are spoken of on the first page are exactly that. It ended up being a look at some verses that we tore down to help us to build a better relationship with our Elohim. Now, that being said, I was going to ask questions, and I promised my wife I would ask questions, but I ended up answering the questions before I could ask the questions. So, do you have any questions? Asher, do you have any comments?
I just thought it was very good to get down to the base of what it's actually saying when it says common or unclean, because some just say unclean, but you know, in an original translation would say common, so you'd have different, you know, decide and discern what's the separation between common and unclean.
We have King James doesn't make a differentiation between unclean. Everything's unclean. Aramaic, there's a differentiation between, can I say that word? I guess it's a word now. Between common and unclean. They're two different words. But that's exactly it. We can't allow topical things to affect us. Yes?
Because I always thought, you know, Romans 14 was very significant for me, because it goes and talk in 14:15. If your brother is grieved because of your food, you no longer walk according to love. Do not by your food destroy that one for whom Messiah died. That'd be interesting, because as to my mom is conservative Jewish, I'm not going to go to my mom's house and put pork chops on her grill, because that's disrespectful. But if I go to my dad's house, that might not be disrespectful to him, because we understand that not anything is not common or unclean that he has not made common or unclean. So it really goes to walking according to love. If we're not loving our neighbor as ourselves, we're breaking the commandment, and we're not loving God. So if we break one, we break all of them, not just one. So I thought Romans 14, that's a very significant chapter for walking according to love.
So, but does everybody see how things tie together? Huh?
I see that it's awesome to have this because there's just more to studying the Word than the topical aspect of it. And that's what a lot of people do. They read it, it's topical, they go on, that's done. This way we're able to break it down, study it, get in there, and apply it to our relationship with Elohim. So I think it's awesome.
And and I use this a lot, and I'm gonna throw this in here as well. Put that up before Bruce falls off the table. We have a word in Hebrew that is emet. Emet is a word that is spelled with the first letter of the alphabet and the last letter of the alphabet and one of the two middle letters of the alphabet. That if we're going to know the truth, we need to know the first part, the middle part, and the end part. That if we simply get the end, then we don't understand if that's really the truth because we haven't gotten the middle or the beginning. We can't take a single verse and say, this is what this verse means, without looking at a whole bunch of other verses to be able to prove it. If it's not, some people get offended when I say this, but I'll say it anyway. If we cannot prove it in Torah, if we can't prove it in the first 5 books, then chances are that we really need to re-examine our particular doctrine. Because if it's not in the first 5 books, which is what everything else is based on, then chances are we're not going to find it in the middle, in the writings and the prophets. Chances are that Yeshua isn't going to bring it up in the Gospels, Brit HaDashah. And chances are that if Yeshua doesn't bring it up in the Gospels, that the writers of the epistles aren't going to bring it up either. And ultimately, we're going to see how it comes and plays out in the book of Revelation. So everything has got to match, has got to line up from the beginning all the way through to the end. It's like our deal with the potter and the leper. We get hung up with the leper right smack in the middle of one of the most important places that we have to understand it. By going to the potter's house is where we find redemption. But instead, we're told that it belongs to a leper, that we're going to the house of somebody who has an outward sign of sin. And that's where we're going to find our restoration. Anyway, yes?
You know, I just wanted to make a comment about that Acts 10 and about Peter's vision, because the way I was raised, I mean, you know, the traditional way is, well, God's made it clean, so it's okay to eat it, you know. But when I really studied that, you can look and see. I have my Bible on Mark, where it's like in the beginning, God is preparing Cornelius. He had a vision too, and we don't even talk about that. But God gave him a vision on this end, and He's given Peter a vision down here to bring the two together. That's what it's all about. And it's like, don't judge this Gentile man. If I've said he's clean, I want you to go and teach him, you know. And it just like clarity all of a sudden. It was amazing when you realized it's not about the food, and it's not about that. It's about God preparing Peter for Cornelius and preparing Cornelius for Peter.
Exactly.
That's amazing. But He works on both ends and brings it all together.
That's like Mike said, beginning, middle, end.
Anybody else? I'm
Yeah,
fighting
I
straight
got
out
something
too much.
for you.
Huh?
Eat more lamb.
Huh?
I said, I got something for you. Eat more lamb.
Absolutely.
That's the blessing.
I'm a big lamb guy.
Oh, yeah, Susan knows that. I mean, I'm talking about thank you.
Especially
Well, you said the goat was the
Says his
sin
wife
part,
on
so
now.
Yeah, there you go, chicken beef.
I don't know that fancy ovens.
It's good anywhere.
That was.
That was really good. It was.
We have
Now
a chief
I'm
grooming
gonna-
us?
now there'll be
We have
no
a chief
excuse for us
grooming
not
us.
to go
He
instead of
he
yes.
knows who's saying